When you think of the Caribbean, you're probably picturing perfect beaches and crystal clear water. But on the island of Guadeloupe, the real treasure is kind of hidden away in the mountains and forests. So today, we're going to dive into its unexpected role as a global hotspot for one of the most amazing plant families on Earth, orchids.
Okay, let's start with just one number, 93. That is how many wild orchid species have been confirmed to be living in the Guadeloupe archipelago. That is a staggering amount of diversity, packed into one tiny corner of the world.
And this chart really just lays it all out. You can see it right there. Guadeloupe has way more species than its neighbors, Dominica and Martinique. It's the undisputed orchid capital of the Lesser Antilles. So, what's going on here? What's Guadeloupe's secret sauce?
And that brings us right to the two big questions we're tackling in this explainer. What is the secret to this incredible floral wealth? And, maybe more importantly, why is it in danger of disappearing?
All right, so the answer to that first question, it all starts with the land itself. You see, Guadeloupe isn't really one island. It's more like a tale of two very different geological worlds that have been fused together. So you've got Basse Terre on one side. It's volcanic, mountainous, super wet, and covered in rainforest. And then on the other side, you have Grande Terre, which is flatter, drier, and made of old limestone. This huge contrast creates this amazing mosaic of different habitats. It basically turns the whole island into a perfect natural laboratory for evolution to just go wild.
And it's Basse Terre's volcanic peaks that really kick this whole thing into high gear. As you climb up these mountains, the entire environment changes, creating these different layers of ecosystems. It's a phenomenon called altitudinal zonation, and it acts like an engine, creating all these specialized little pockets where tons of different orchid species can evolve.
Okay, so you have all these different habitats, right? Well, that's given rise to some seriously unique floral treasures. Let's meet a few of the remarkable species that call Guadeloupe home. We'll start with another number, 5. This is the number of orchid species that are not just rare, they are on another level of rare.
That's because these 5 species are what scientists call strict endemics, which is just a fancy way of saying you can find them here, on this one island archipelago, and literally nowhere else on the entire planet. Nowhere.
Now, here are their scientific names. And look, we're not going to get bogged down trying to pronounce them all. What's really important to know is that most of these are tiny, delicate plants that can only survive in the misty, high-altitude cloud forests. They're like canaries in a coal mine. Their presence tells us that Guadeloupe's most pristine ecosystems are healthy. But, not all of Guadeloupe's famous orchids are hiding away in the clouds. Let's meet the island's rock star, the one everyone knows by its amazing Creole name, the Abeille d'Or.
And here it is, the golden bee. Unlike those high-altitude guys, this orchid actually loves the drier, rocky areas, and it produces these incredible cascading sprays of bright yellow flowers. It's a true symbol of the island's wild, rugged beauty. So you might be wondering, how do so many of these orchids actually live? Well, about 2/3 of them are what we call epiphytes, which means they live on other trees, not in the soil. They've evolved these super cool, specialized roots that act like a high-tech sponge, sucking up moisture and food right from the humid air in the rainforest. It's pretty amazing. But, and you knew there was a but, this incredible, specialized world is so fragile. We've seen the paradise. Now we have to look at the threats that are putting this entire Eden in danger.
The pressure is coming from everywhere, all at once. Forests are being bulldozed for development. Poachers are literally stealing the most beautiful species. A changing climate is threatening those delicate cloud forests. And on top of all that, invasive species are marching in.
The impact is very, very real. And it makes you wonder, have we already lost some for good?
And the answer, well, it's heartbreaking. 4 orchid species have already been declared regionally extinct. They've just vanished from the archipelago. This isn't a problem for the future. This is a loss that has already happened. And a huge part of this pressure comes from competition. So let's meet the super invader of Guadeloupe's forests, the African spotted orchid. This thing is an unstoppable colonizer that is just taking over.
So what makes this invader so good at its job? Well, it's got this incredible toolkit for success. First, it can pollinate itself, no partner needed. Second, it's not picky, it'll grow pretty much anywhere. Third, it partners with any old fungus in the soil. And finally, its seeds are like dust. They just blow everywhere, outcompeting the native species at every turn. Okay, that sounds pretty bleak, but the story isn't over.
People are fighting back, and believe it or not, there is real hope on the horizon for Guadeloupe's orchids.
The first and most important line of defense is the Guadeloupe National Park. This place is the main sanctuary for the island's orchid diversity, and it is the only place on the entire planet where those 5 super rare endemic species are protected.
But what happens when development is unavoidable, like a new road or a quarry? That's when conservationists pull out a technique called translocation. You can think of it like an emergency evacuation for plants, carefully moving them one by one out of harm's way and into a safe new home.
And you might think, does that even work? Well, look at the results. They are just incredible. These rescue operations have a survival rate of up to 99%. It just goes to show that direct, hands-on action can make a huge, huge difference.
So in the end, the story of Guadeloupe's orchids is this incredible dance between extreme fragility and amazing resilience. They're the product of a unique paradise, but they face a really uncertain future. And as our planet keeps changing, the big question is, which one of those is going to win out? Which one will define their story in the decades to come?